Hi, I'm Michael Engelhard, author of the memoir ArcticTraverse, A Thousand Mile Summer of Trekking the Brooks Range. I represent the Alaska Center for the book and feel honored and glad that such a personal quest has resonated with so many readers. Ever since I was a teenager, I wanted to live in the far north. Too much Jack London at a susceptible age, you could say. Northern Alaska, especially the Brooks Range, is my favorite place in the world. I've tried to do for it what Thoreau did for Walden Pond, John Muir for the Sierra Nevada, and Barry Lopez for the Arctic at large. I also wanted to draw attention to what is happening in the Arctic right now. Wildfires so bad they keep bush planes grounded. Heating 3 times faster than the average global rate. Thawing permafrost causing landslides that turn rivers rust red, making them unfit for salmon and humans. There also is development, road building, drilling, and mining, all of which worsen this ecological crisis. But what happens in the Arctic never stays in the Arctic. In order to talk about what inspired the book, I have to talk about what inspired the journey on which it is based. Guiding 2-week backpacking and river trips in the Brooks Range for a Fairbanks outfitter through the decades, there was never enough time to explore all the nooks and crannies that the maps and chartered flights hinted at. So I dreamed about spending most of a summer up there. But summers were when I earned most of my income. Such a trip would be expensive. I needed some special gear and several charters to put in caches of supplies. 3 key events finally set things in motion. Sitting in camp by the banks of the Hula Hula River on one trip I guided, we discussed pet projects. When my turn came, I shared the idea of a traverse from the Canadian border to the Bering Strait and mentioned the financial obstacles. A woman who worked for an environmental profit said, "No problem, we'll get you the money." And she was as good as her word. The second event involved a school teacher I guided on the Shinjack River and the Continental Divide crossing. She fell madly in love with the place and planned to return the following year with her students. During our hike, she complained about chest pains. I gave her meds and she seemed fine. But I heard in the following spring that she had been diagnosed with lung cancer and soon afterward died. That was a real wake-up call. The final straw was meeting a Brooks Range through hiker at an airstrip on the Hula Hula where my group and I were waiting to get picked up. He was fit, but not superhuman, part of a duo of hikers who had meticulously prepared. Talking to him, I realized that I could and should do this. It was equally important for me to tell this story because of a false impression that Arctic Alaska always has been an unpeopled wilderness. I have worked in Northwest Alaska also as a cultural anthropologist, and nothing could be further from the truth. Native peoples have utilized and traveled and respected those lands for at least 15,000 years. Their place names pepper the landscape, and what's wilderness for us, for them long has been home. I wanted to share with readers what I've learned from and about these locals. The most impressive thing about Alaska is that journeys like the one I describe in ArcticTraverse are still possible there. Where else in the United States do you find a 1,000-mile stretch of almost uninterrupted, undeveloped lands? Lands that still harbor wolves, polar bears, grizzlies, and caribou herds, hundreds of thousands of animals strong. They are lands in which natural cycles and evolution still largely play out as they did at the end of the Pleistocene. Alaska is also deeply storied, a place that attracts and shapes unique characters. Take Nome, for example, where I lived for several years. It's the subject of my latest book and the most fascinating town I've ever called home. Stories nest within stories there, like Russian dolls, or perhaps a better metaphor, they connect like a chain in which one link hangs on another. It's enough to keep a writer and traveler busy for several lifetimes.